Talking about conference realignment seemingly for years, certainly for months and months. But did you know that this Saturday is when the latest round of conference realignment becomes official? 14 of the 133 FBS schools nationally will officially change conferences this Saturday, June 30th. They are UCF, Houston, BYU, and Cincinnati, all making their way, well, 3 of the 4 making their way from the American to the Big 12, BYU from Independence to Big 12. Charlotte, FAU, North Texas, Rice, UAB, and UTSA all officially moved to the American Conference.
Real quick, did you know that, could you have named all of them moving to the AAC? I could not. When I read this, I was like, Charlotte, oh, good for them, but did not know that.
I could not. Could not have. And then you got Jacksonville State, Liberty, who has been independent, New Mexico State, who I think has also been independent because they played Liberty a bunch in recent years.
Yep.
And Sam Houston State, all joining Conference USA. Most of these programs are moving because they believe it is in their best financial interest. But here's the question. Does it pay off in terms of wins? In the past 12 years, there have been 12 schools that have changed Power 5 conferences or moved up to a Power 5 league. Pittsburgh, Syracuse, and Louisville joining the ACC. Nebraska, Maryland, and Rutgers going to the Big 10. TCU and West Virginia to the Big 12. Colorado and Utah to the Pac-12. Missouri, Texas A&M to the SEC. Those 12 schools have played a combined 127 seasons in their new leagues, and it hasn't been pretty. Only 3 times since joining has a new school won its conference championship. Last year, TCU became the only Power 5 addition in the past decade plus 2 years, 12 years, to reach the college football playoff. Of the combined 127 seasons, only 38 times has a school finished with a winning record in conference play. Utah has had the most success. Rutgers and Maryland have never had a winning season since moving to their new conference.
Since conference realignment does not go well, we could keep going on cereal, I guess, but it doesn't go well for the teams making the moves, with Utah being the exception. Whittingham is a star. There's 4 big moves happening next year: Texas, Oklahoma, UCLA, USC. Of the 4, who acclimates the best and who acclimates the worst? I think worst is an easy answer. I expect UCLA to struggle.
Yeah. Are we talking football only?
Football, yeah, and if you want to throw basketball in there, sure.
Yeah, UCLA will be okay in basketball.
Yeah.
Mick Cronin can coach a Big Ten-style basketball. That's going to be fine. But football, yes, they will struggle.
I think Southern Cal will struggle in basketball.
For sure.
In the Big Ten. And look, I mean,
sure.
they've done a pretty good job. I mean, that was a tournament team last year.
Yeah.
I mean, the easy answer is Southern Cal, right? Is the one that can acclimate the best? I think. What about those 4 teams that are joining the Big 12? That's honestly more fascinating to me than Southern Cal and UCLA joining the Big 10. The combination of UCF in a major metropolitan area that's growing like crazy in Orlando, and Houston in one of the, 5 biggest cities in the country with a fertile recruiting ground in its backyard. Cincinnati, who did almost the unthinkable in the American. They're the only non-Power 5 team to make a college football playoff. They did that with Luke Fickell as their head coach. And apparently Cincinnati has really bought in on the NIL front. And then you got BYU, who's just a good program.
Yeah. I'm kind of torn between Houston and Central Florida because of the recruiting area that they have. The problem is that neither one of them are ever going to be first choice in those areas.
But do they
Texas
have to be?
And Texas A&M. They don't have to be, but they gotta get the right guy. Central Florida is the one I think that I could see. After this year, when Texas and Oklahoma are out, if you told me in like 2 years Central Florida wins the Big 12, I could totally buy that.
with Gus as the head coach?
Yeah. That's the other thing. They have a head coach who's coached in big games and knows the lay of the land.
Do we sometimes maybe not give Gus Malzahn enough credit
100%.
because of the craziness that is Auburn and its fan base?
And sharing a state with the greatest college football coach of all time. I mean, that's the way Gus was looked at and treated, I thought was so unfair when he shared a state with the greatest coach of all time. Like, that context is not added.
And had some success against him.
And got wins against him, yeah.
Gus Malzahn is 94-47 in his career. At Auburn, he went 67-35 in 8 years. And he is 18-9 in 2 seasons at UCF. They won 9 games in each of the last 2 years at UCF. And that's in the American.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that look like in your mind for UCF in year one? And I know we talked about this a little bit in the last week. UCF lost a bunch of players, too. Mikey Keene, who was the backup quarterback to John Rice Plumlee, went to Fresno State. Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste went to Ole Miss. Devontae Brown, a corner, went to Miami. Now they had a guy that went down to North Alabama. Ryan O'Keefe, who was their leading receiver, transferred to Boston College. That's a tough loss for them. Joey Gatewood. How is he still playing college football?
Gosh.
He transferred to Louisville. Andrew Osteen, their punter, goes to Mississippi State. Is he going to end up being the punter for State this year?
I believe so.
Matt Lee, they had an offensive lineman that transferred to Miami. Had another quarterback, Tommy Castellanos, who actually played a little bit last year, goes to Boston College. Justin Hodges, a defensive back, transfers to Ole Miss. They lost a bunch of guys in the transfer portal. But they brought some in as well. We'll see how that shakes out.